the same time, so they have one mobilization.
But I'm not sure that, I don't know who their sub is. If their sub is like, we need winter work, and it doesn't involve painting at all, and they can knock out all of Second Street in a day and grind it all off, they may say, yeah, we'll go out and just get it done.
Potentially.
I don't know.
Correct.
We can ask
Brian and I
Brian.
had a brief discussion, he, like I do, they come from a long distance, and so it's easy for them to, you know, run the truck down and grind the lines off. And so for them to do it on the same day they do everything else is probably more efficient than a separate trip out. We can certainly ask, right?
So,
Certainly ask.
but it would be, even if we have to wait till spring for them to do it, it'd be nice to give directive to the residents over there and say, hey, we know the line's still there, but we've already made the decision. When NDOT comes back, we're removing it, all your parking will come back, and it's official. And then sort through any of those stop sign issues as well, get all that wrapped up. If we do anything permanently, it will require resolution, because right now, technically, this is all construction temporary. So if we were to put in a stop control, we need a resolution approving that as a stop control intersection. And no parking, we would need a resolution to permanently state any of it as no parking.
But if we were to just go back to the way it was.
Yep, we don't need to do anything but see, go back to the way it was.
That's the default.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, Rich?
One thing that I wanted to suggest, I'm okay with removing the double yellow lines whenever it works for you. And then listening to Tyler and other people who live on Second Street, I think they've done a really nice job of being very patient with us. And I believe that those streets are wide enough to be able to handle parking on each side. So those no parking signs could come down on Second Street. And then also the four-way stops, prior to this rerouting of traffic, there was a stop sign on Seward, Moffett, Hillcrest, and Pinewood on Second Street, going both directions. But the four-way stops, I think, on Seward Street, Moffett, and Pinewood's already been removed, correct? There's
I
no
think
four-
Moffett and Seward are,
Moffett for sure is still there.
yeah.
Moffat's still there, okay,
I
so.
think they're all still up.
Okay,
Except
I think they
Pinewood.
are,
Except
but I'm
Pinewood.
saying, the Pinewood one was a sign that was a temporary sign.
Yeah.
And those have been pulled, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, so, anyway, there's always been a stop sign on those streets, Seward, Moffett, and Pinewood on Second alone. So, the four-way stops being reevaluated, I think is really important there too. Okay?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Do we feel strongly that we're probably not gonna, that we're gonna put some parking back in some way, shape, or form? Because if we do, then I can get Brian to give me, and if he just says, hey, I can have him come out in a week, because if they can come out quickly, we can pull all the signs, and then if you wanna put parking back on one side only, all we gotta do is put the signs back up on one side. But we don't have to do anything in the roadway. And then we can get that roadway cleared, and that would move this along a lot faster, if you feel strongly about that. Again, we don't need a resolution to do any of that, but if you, the directive is, don't leave it as no parking on both sides, we can re-engage, and if we have a window or an opportunity, we can do this a lot sooner than having them wait until April or May or March or whenever it's warm. So,
I feel strongly, I'd like to move for the residents that live there,
Gus.
to get the parking removed as soon as possible.
So we'll get back together with Brian, we'll see if we have a window opening, we'll pull up the yellow line, as soon as the yellow line comes up, we'll pull the parking signs down, and then if you feel strongly later that you wanna put no parking on one side of the road, all we gotta do is add the signs back on that side, but we don't have to do anything in the roadway anymore, but I wanna get that paint off there then.
But that
And then
would
me-
be a discussion, but that would require a resolution.
Yes, to do that parking, but then we're not in a weird situation, if you're not feeling it on the no parking on both sides, let's get that yellow up and out of there, and that'll give it a lot of relief very sooner. Me and Mike, we'll check in on the Pinewood one. Anything we can do not to touch that street and even grind anything on it, it's not in the best condition, so I don't like to mess with it. If there's no parking up there anyways, we may just tell them to leave that yellow line until we rip that road apart, because that's what we're gonna do, is reconstruct that whole thing anyway, in our 1 and 6 year plan here in the short term. So we may just say grind that one, leave the one on Pinewood, and call it good. But I wanna have my ducks in a row when we talk to Brian, so if we have a window or an opportunity, we can snag it. Does that seem reasonable?
Mhm.
And then we're gonna keep the four ways just for now.
For now, we'll keep the 4 ways, and then we'll come back maybe in January. We'll have the traffic committee do our analysis of it as well. We may, ask the community to give some input on the stop signs. I want to reach out to St. John's. I did talk to the school district today. They kind of gave me some of their thoughts on the stop signs and Second Street. But I want to reach out to St. John's because there's a proximity issue there. At least get their input and let people have their say. But then we can do it in the first meeting in January probably, and get rid of those as well if that's the direction we go.
I just wanted to add that, I think that residents on Second Street have been very patient, and they've done a tremendous job of helping us to help get this Highway 2 project Highway 15 project reach its conclusion. And it's also important, I think, at this point to say, projects like this become necessary when you have to reroute large volumes of traffic. So I think the Second Street was a real good test for Seward. I think we did very well with it. The combination of the Department of Transportation and our own city employees, I think, did a wonderful job.
Any other questions or comments on this item? You all good? Alright, we
It's
don't.
not really a motion
we
for
don't
us
need
doing anything. We're kind of defaulting down back into the way it was.
Point for the minutes, so I
Nope.
understand how
No,
that.
we should be
reflect
good
it.
with that,
Okay.
cause it's just the default of what would happen when construction final.
Yep.
Is final. Are you ready for number 3, Mike? Is that what you're doing?
Yes.
Alright, well, don't let me hold
He
you
wants
up.
to get out of here.
Item number 3, go, Mike.
All right, thank you. So what you have before you is a request for a change order, this being the 4th change order for this particular contract, one of 3 contracts for installing the new water tower right behind us at Jackson 8th. This one totaling $22,144.11. I broke it down a little bit more finely than the contractor who submitted this change order form. It's essentially 6 smaller items. I did include, since there was a question, there was a request to actually total up all of the change orders, so I did include a memo here. With it, I have for each change order, the middle 3 pages essentially breaks down for all the change orders, specifically the items that were included. Table 4 has the 6 items that are listed here. Some are pretty small, stump removal that needed to be added to the project, $750 roughly. Then there was some work in the alley, extra work, paving work in the alley that totaled just over $11,000. All told, for the 6 items, the request is $22,144.11. I will preface that I do anticipate there being 1 or 2 more change orders for this project. One potentially will come in January. It depends on the site electric work. And so there's a little bit more work that has to be done. That in particular relates to the tower being delayed until next year. And so we're having to sequence the 2 projects differently. And then, so we have to add work essentially to make that function properly in the short run. So that'll come next month. However, we're asking today for approval for this particular change order 4. Certainly can address any questions that the council may have.
Any questions or comments from the council? Or entertain a motion?
Move to. Second.
Move to approve.
What just happened over here?
Jinx.
Please register your vote.
Gives us soda.
Please just wait. Miss Richard, you wanna
I'll
vote?
go on now.
Alright.
Ready, prepared.
Voting in favor, Francis Schuyler, Kaler, Tanya, Coltman, Miller, Bryson, Warrior, 7-0.
Alright, thank you, Mike. Joel, update.
Good evening, everyone. Main updates, in the fitness and studio areas, equipment was delivered and installed last week, probably 3/4 of it. We found out week prior to that, there was some that was back ordered. Equipment was not ready to come, but 3/4 of it is there. The main things are there, were put in place, and so the rest will be in January, and it looks good. Brand new equipment is always fun to see in there, but the group that was up there did an awesome job last week getting it in there. Other things in that area, lights were put in there, and they'll be switching over to full power soon. this week. And so that's a big step to
Permanent power.
permanent, sorry.
No, full power.
Sorry.
Remove from construction temporary power to
Yes.
permanent power.
Instead of,
I got it. I knew what
I
you meant.
understood
power.
what you meant.
We knew what you meant.
We get it, thank you, Joel.
Larry,
Anyway.
Larry'd be mad. Larry'd be mad at us if we didn't clarify that.
People
Larry
answer.
doesn't. All right, so that's happening this week. That's a good step for everything. Lights are getting put in those areas. Windows are getting finished out. Before that, the floor had been done right before the equipment was there. And so that room is really coming together like we anticipated. So January time is when the rest of the equipment will come, and that same group will be back to install. In the gym area, that's kind of on hold until January for a few weeks, until that humidity level of the gym floor is up and they can come back, sand it and seal it, and then we can go on. The track was completed last week, everything except lining the track, so that looks really good as well. The blue in there next to the wood floor really looks nice, but again, that's on pause till middle of January, end of January, and then they'll finish that. That's still on track with everything where we're at. So we're in good shape with those two rooms. The pool, they did a hydro test recently of the surge pit and the gutters. That went well today. They filled up the pool halfway for the hydro test for that. Tomorrow they'll fill it up the rest of the way, and as they're checking things off and just checking to see that everything is working correctly. So that's a big step for that hydro test to happen. So everything is going off as planned. They continue to finish the mechanical room, drywall on that, and as soon as they get done with that, in the next couple weeks, they'll be installing pool equipment, and a lot of that equipment in the mechanical room will be a step forward in that room. Classrooms and locker rooms continue as normal. The tile consistently is being put into the locker rooms. There's a lot of locker room areas, so it's a lot of tile. They're making good progress on that. Drywall in that is in pretty good shape, but the locker rooms each time just a little more finished every time that we're up there. And that was a 3-week process for tile and paint, and that will probably be done by the end of next week, or definitely by January, which is coming up quickly. Next in the classroom area, finishes and casework cabinets are supposed to be delivered next week for several areas. We'll find out a little more specifics about that tomorrow at our construction meeting. But again, each step, little more finished product that we're seeing as we go forward. And so sidewalks continue to be worked on outside and making progress on that. Hopefully you noticed last week we got our membership drive going. If you didn't, that is live right now with a 5% discount till January 7th. People can find that on the Wellness Center website, so SewardWellnessCenter.com under membership. Also, as of today, our rates are on there. I made sure they got our actual rates. Been getting a lot of questions. Obviously, we need to make that known to the public. Those are on there as well, so people can see what the regular rates are. And so that membership drive will continue. We are getting memberships trickling in each day, making some good progress. I've reached out to a lot of our large employers and talking with them about working with their employees to get them as corporate sponsors and discounts their way if they can provide a certain number of employees. And so that is going well. Our next big step is to nail down and finalize all of the exact programs we're going to offer. So I'm shooting for the beginning of January to really nail those down and talking to people about being instructors and all the different areas with that. So those are the next big steps with that, but everything is going along very well. We've had a couple trainings, Adam Bodie and I, with our new software, since that is brand new and will be used for all of the rec department. So Adam is working on getting baseball signups already onto that website, because for anybody with the wellness center or the rec signups, that will all be done in the same place. And so when you create a login, and people will, the first time you do it, there's a few steps that you have to go through. Create a login for yourself, and then your family is in the database, so to speak. And so that will be there, and you can add programs, whether it's a membership or it is signing kids up for rec. Or eventually, you know, maybe we do an adult basketball league and you guys can get signed up for that.
The people behind us?
Yeah, I was like, who's he talking
But
to?
so that is going well, we're learning more and more. I've said right now, no just enough to be dangerous with that system, but there is a lot of things that we'll be doing with that. But everything is going well. Before I go to the next thing, any questions on the building?
Sounds good.
All right. Next, I just asked for your consideration and approval of a well permit for the wellness center to be on site. And so basically that will, having a well up there will save us. This is intended primarily for the sprinkler system. There will be a lot of area to cover up there. And so that will be mainly for that. And the irony shouldn't be lost that we are saving money from paying city water with the wellness center.
That's
So-
hilarious, actually.
So, but that's the idea, and it is going out on the southeast edge corner of the building, and will be out of the way of future thoughts for expansion of what could be up there. It would fit right in with that. That was in mind when we did this. So, any questions?
It's not checking the last box, meaning it's okay to drink.
What's that?
Same thing.
Well, it's just not intended for that, so, because it's all gonna be for the sprinkler
But since
system.
it's not checked, does it mean that you can't?
I suppose you could.
Alright.
We would have in the eighties, so.
True, very true. I think we did.
Any questions or comments from the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second, please register your votes. Please spread the votes.
Voting in favor, Francisco, Kaler, Tanya, Copeland, Miller, Tyson, Morgan, 7-0.
Anything else, Joel?
Nope,
Good.
that's it, thank you.
All right.
You know,
City Administrator's report.
My administrator's report is included in there. One of the big ones coming up this week is I will be meeting with State Senator Hughes tomorrow to kind of go over our legislative agenda. As you know, last year Senator Hughes introduced a bill on behalf of the city, sort of to help us secure wastewater facility funding. It is dire that we find funds to help build that facility. So we'll have a discussion about that and see if potential legislation may be reintroduced. I do know state budgets are very tight this year. And so the opportunity to have reaching for odd fiscal opportunities may be very slim. So
I don't think there's any money for anything, like, let alone special Seward things.
So we'll have the discussion at least so that we can kind of follow up on our efforts from last year. The Civic Center continues to move along. We'll move into punch list in January on that. We'll punch list the upstairs early in the month and then most likely finish up the downstairs portions. I'm excited for you to see that facility. It's a substantial change to what was in there. And hopefully it will be more highly utilized with a more modern feel to it, modern aesthetics and modern audio visual. And then the impetus of the entire project, we will have ADA accessibility between the buildings that never existed before. So it'll just make the functionality of that significantly better. So we'll continue to work on that one. Obviously Joel spoke to the Wellness Center. We've talked about Highway 15 items. I will be heading out to Grand Island on Thursday to continue my discussions with NPPD in preparation for contract negotiations. As a reminder, this will be potentially the largest, most expensive contract the city ever enters into. So prepare ourselves, and as we get closer to the point that it's submitted to us and we'll have to start making some considerations, I wanna start prepping you guys for what's coming down the pipeline, but the gist of the matter is NPPD needs to start creating generation facilities across the state to anticipate the capacity requirements that they have, and to feed all our growing communities and the demand for electricity, which only is increasing across the nation. The issue we're discussing is nationwide. I can answer any other questions you have, but that's kind of the outlook of what's going on right now.
Can you talk just real briefly about the Jackson-Lindell connection down there at the bottom?
We restarted, Shimmer was our assigned, civil engineers on that project.
Okay.
As we picked up that project a year ago or so, that's when all of the Highway 15 stuff came in.
Right,
They only have so much capacity within their civil division, and so they said, well, we can either work on your Jackson Lindell stuff, or we can work on your water mains and storm sewers and stuff like that. So we moved them over to those because we prioritize those projects in our 1 to 6 year plan. Mike, myself, Bob Myers, and the team from Shimmer went out again and rewalked the project. We also had some discussions about some interconnectivity of storm sewers back along Jackson in that corridor all the way up to 2nd Street. Last year there was, if you check the community chat, there were some posts about some flooding that goes on there in really high intensity rainstorms. Not a prolonged issue, but a flash kind of flooding issue. And so we wanted to at least have some discussions about possibilities of interconnecting those two for potential some drainage connectivity, because it zigzags itself all the way around up north around the hospital. A more direct line may be one of the solutions to help alleviate that issue. So we talked at least initially about what that might look like, at least from a study standpoint, maybe doing some studies of different floodwater modeling and things like that, just to see what interconnect that, and then go down and rewalk the Lindell project, get boots on the ground. We were definitely, the neighbors were looking at us and coming out and talk to us, but to get ready to move that project forward, because that is ready to move again.
Okay.
So Shimmer's getting started back on design on that.
Any other questions or comments for Greg? Do you have anything else to add?
Nope.
Is there a motion to approve?
move to accept.
Second.
A motion and a second. Please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Francisco, Kaler, Tanya, Schulterman, Miller, Streisand, Warden, 7-0.
All right, do we have any future requests for council agenda items or administrative action?
Councilperson Tanya had a great comment Friday night about northbound on 15 when you get to Pinewood. Sometimes there's a little confusion since it splits into 2 lanes, which is the through lane. So if there could be some signage or something on the lanes that say that the right hand lane is right turn, I think that would help too, turning into Northern Heights off the high school. And then I was approached at Walmart on a dark night that someone asked me why there aren't any lights for the intersection to turn into Walmart, when it's kinda hard to see or foggy or rainy. So I guess traffic is on the mind of everyone now.
We'll go back and look at the mapping. There may be, because they temporarily painted some of that stuff, there may be more permanent paint, but I experienced the same thing, actually. Somebody came up behind me as I was turning onto Pinewood, and they went straight. So I don't know if they
Yeah,
were
it's very
confused.
Semis
valid.
are doing it like this, yeah.
And so we'll talk to DOT, and maybe we have the right turn arrows painted into those lanes, then note it's a right
I
turn lane
think
or
anything would
Yeah,
help.
would
right turn lane or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we can definitely engage in that conversation. And then
Sorry Tatum to throw you under the bus.
No,
like
that's
that.
good.
a number of
I'm
years ago,
sorry.
I think we had the discussion, I don't know where NDOT was on the lights at
At
Walmart.
Walmart, I know
They-
there's, right when you turn in their driveway, there's lights, it would be easy to extend that power out, you know, to cover both sides of the intersection, but,
I think they told us that we needed to provide them some sort of study.
But I think it's at our cost.
Yeah.
So what we did out of Dark Flower, what we did at Isaac Walton, they're happy for us to pay for lights and pay for the power, but they're not gonna do it. Happy to approve it, so, to their standard.
yeah.
So we'll re-engage. We have a new district engineer that we have not had a discussion with on that project before. I talked to Tom Goodbarn years ago about it, and it just kind of didn't go anywhere with them. But we can re-engage on that one.
upcoming events? Welcome.
Thanks, thank you.
Just a few upcoming events. Monday, December 23rd at 2 p.m. We'll have a ribbon cutting. This will be to celebrate the new clock installation at the band shell. You're all welcome to join us for that.
When?
December 23rd, Monday, 2 p.m. And then in January, Wednesday, January 22nd, we'll have ribbon cutting for Burns Body Shop. They're expanding. That'll be at 1 p.m. And then we'll follow that up tentatively with the 6th Street Cafe ribbon cutting at 2 p.m. Monday, January 27th, that'll be our annual awards banquet. We'll celebrate accomplishments of local leaders and businesses throughout Seward County. Tickets are available now on our website. Friday, February 14th, we'll have a lunch and learn discussing business succession planning. That'll be at 11:30 a.m. at the library. And then lastly, our next board meeting is Monday, February 17th, here in Seward.
Thank you. Next we have a strategy session.
I move that the city council go into closed session with the mayor, city administrator, city clerk, and the city attorney for the protection of the public interest and to discuss real estate interests and provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance for a period not to exceed 30 minutes.
We have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
You have a motion and a second, please register your votes. Please display the votes.
Voting in favor, Francis Scott Kaler, Tanya Copeland, Miller, Streisand, Morgan, 7-0.
Alright, the council is voting to go into closed session at 8:20 p.m. for the protection of the public interest and to discuss real estate interests and to provide the city attorney with negotiating guidance. No formal action will be taken. We are in closed session. Thank you, everyone.